All right, so when taking a look for me about analyzing what first order change is and my experience with first order change and my thoughts and beliefs about first order change in regards to the role of the principal, I found the quote by Marzano. If leadership techniques do not match the order of change required by an innovation, the innovation will probably fail regardless of its merits. I found that to be really interesting because if I'm trying to use the wrong function of change in a situation, I'm not going to be successful. So for first order change, I think you have to think about who needs to be involved and what would the due process be, right? I think you got to do that no matter what. So for first order change, I think the group is probably smaller. You can think critically about these smaller incremental changes with a smaller group of people. So just the group that's being affected, I think, needs to be involved in the change probably. And the due process is probably shorter, and it involves more of kind of a up the chain of ladder approval of the decision and the change, and then we move on pretty quickly. So recently I had to be in charge of a first order change in my building. That was related to me as a teacher, but also I'm currently in my internship. So I was put in charge of making sure that the special schedule, when we implemented a new special ed program about a week ago, it's February, we had a switch in special ed programming in our building and in another building. Basically, a new program got created and a program got moved out. And so I was personally concerned as a teacher about what changes we would need based on the needs of kids to meet their academic needs for specials. Like, would we see them separately to the other program that's already and staying in the building, or would we see them separate like we were seeing the other kids? And so, I spoke to the people that would be affected by the change, the specialist teachers, the 2 classroom teachers. I looked at what has worked in the past. Well, in the past, all the other specials except music are together and it's successful. And also that allows me to have more duty time in the building, and that has also been successful. So I used previous successes and I checked with the people who needed to be checked with that it would affect, and then I ran it up the ladder and then we implemented it. It was a pretty quick decision. And it basically took me monitoring and evaluating what we needed and checking with those who needed to be checked with, and then we moved on. I also think with first order change, it's important in my mind to note that without the ability, I think, to implement first order changes, second order changes are not going to be effective. So if you as a building principal or a leader or a teacher can't look at what needs to be fixed and fix it, then I think, when we dive in next slide to what second order change is, that you're not going to be effective at making large culture-based changes if your systems aren't working. So you have to use first order change to make your systems and your procedures and your functions in your building effective so that you can make the larger, more vast changes effective.